Hello, my name is Nathan Taylor, otherwise known as Sockmatician, and this is a video tutorial to accompany the Sockmatician's double knitted brioche ebook. This particular video shows you how to work the one needle Kitchener graft. It's a brilliant way of closing off or grafting off a piece of double knitted brioche rib, and the end looks exactly like the tubular Italian or invisible cast on, which is not the cast on I've used here, so I can't show you that for comparison details. This is the long tail cast on, but the Kitchener graft is exactly the same as the tubular cast on. I'm going to assume that you've got a section of double knitted brioche rib, and at either end you've got one pair of stitches which have been created using the slip stitch edge technique, which gives you this lovely, nice, clean, smooth edge there. And I'm going to show you how to work the one needle Kitchener graft over the top of all of that. The Kitchener graft itself is worked using only one of the two yarns, your knit coloured yarn incidentally, and as a result it builds up a new layer of stitches on only one side of your fabric. In order to keep the number of rows with each yarn the same, therefore, before we get on to the actual grafting, we need to work with your pearl coloured yarn and build up a row of pearl coloured stitches along the back of the work, so that when we eventually work the graft itself, the new row of stitches created by doing so will bring the front of the fabric up to the same level as the fabric on the back. Without doing this, there will be more rows of stitches on the front of the work than the back, and that would never do. So here's how we build up that back row. You can see here I've got a little tapestry needle that's coming into play later on. The setup, the build up of the stitches across the back is done with your knitting needle. So you're going to drop the knit coloured yarn for the time being. At the moment you can see that's hanging out at the back of the work because I've got the slip stitch edge going on here. So the pearl coloured yarn I'm going to be working with on its own here, and that's at the front of the work. So the first thing to do is to slip one stitch purlwise from the left needle to the right. There you go. It doesn't have a yarn over because it's one of the edge stitches. Then I pick up my pearl coloured yarn, and with it I'm going to purl that pearl stitch just there. Again, because it was one of your edge stitches, it does not have a yarn over. Step 3, and this is the beginning of the repeat. Step 3, take your pearl coloured yarn to the back of the work going between the two needles. Step 4 is slip one stitch with its yarn over this time, because we're now into the double knitted brioche section, purlwise from the left needle to the right. Step 5, bring your pearl coloured yarn to the front of the work coming between the two needles. And step 6, using your pearl coloured yarn, purl the next stitch with its yarn over. Now I'm going to keep repeating steps 3 to 6 a couple of times. Step 3, take my pearl coloured yarn to the back of the work. Step 4, slip one stitch with its yarn over, purlwise from the left needle to the right. Step 5, bring the pearl coloured yarn to the front. Step 6, with it, purl a stitch with its yarn over. One more time then, take the pearl coloured yarn to the back of the work, slip a stitch with its yarn over, bring the yarn to the front and purl. Take it to the back, slip a stitch, bring it to the front and purl. I'm going to keep doing that all the way across this row until I've just got the final pair of stitches left on the needle. You don't need to watch that, you can join me when I'm done. Here I'm then at the end of the row, and I've just completed step 6, which is using my pearl coloured yarn, purl one stitch with its yarn over. Now I can move on to step 7. So take my pearl coloured yarn to the back of the work going between the two needles. I'm going to slip one stitch purlwise from the left needle to the right, and this is one of the edge stitches so it doesn't have a yarn over. Then I'm going to bring my pearl coloured yarn to the front of the work coming between the two needles, and using the pearl coloured yarn I'm going to purl that final stitch. Again, it doesn't have a yarn over either. It's basically the same as what I've been doing all the way along the row anyway, it's just that those last two stitches don't have yarn overs, so I thought I'd mention those separately. At this point you can break your pearl coloured yarn, leaving enough of a tail for weaving in later on. Now, without turning the work, slide all of the stitches to the other end of your circular needle. We're now going to be working with your knit coloured yarn, which is there waiting for us. and the tapestry needle. Because we're going to be breaking this yarn and then working with it, we need to leave enough of a tail that's going to allow us to graft all the way along here and get to the other side. A good rule of thumb, and this is a generous rule of thumb, is to have enough of a tail so that we've got yarn that is 5 times the width of the piece of fabric that we're going to be grafting. It's only a rough estimate, and you will probably have more than you need by doing that, but it's far better to overestimate than underestimate. So I'm going to break the yarn there. I'm going to thread that tail onto my tapestry needle, and then I can get ready for working my graft. Step 1, insert the tip of the tapestry needle purlwise into the first stitch, it has no yarn over, on the left needle, and pull through. When I say pull through, I just mean work all the way through. Doesn't need to be pulled tight, it just needs to be a little bit snug so it's not loose. Step 2, take the tapestry needle behind the work and insert the tip between the first and second stitches coming towards you. That looks like that. Then swing the point of your tapestry needle around so that you can now insert it knitwise into the second stitch, which again has no yarn over, on the left needle and pull through. So swinging that around, I'm just going to turn the point of the needle so I can go into that stitch and then pull through. Don't worry, I'll show you that again many times as we go through this. Making sure all my tails stay out of the way. Now I'm going to slip one stitch with no yarn over, knitwise, from the left needle onto the tapestry needle. That's going in as if to knit, pretending this was a knitting needle, going in as if to knit and slipping it onto the tapestry needle. Then I'm going to insert the tip of the tapestry needle purlwise into the front of what is now the second stitch. There's the first and there's the second stitch with its yarn over on the left needle and pull through. So that means going in just into the front there. You can see I've gone into the yarn over and the stitch together, missing out that first stitch there, and then I can pull through. Again, doesn't want to be too tight, doesn't want to be too loose, just the Goldilocks tension. Step 5, slip what is now the first stitch on the left needle without a yarn over, purlwise onto the tapestry needle. Again, pretending that my tapestry needle is a knitting needle and slipping it over from left to right there. Now take the tapestry needle behind the work and insert the tip of it between the first stitch with its yarn over and the second stitch which has no yarn over coming towards me, and that's in there like that. Can you see this is the first stitch with its yarn over, this is the second stitch with no yarn over, and I bring the tapestry needle in towards me like that. Then once again, as we did in the first lot, I turn the point of the tapestry needle around so I can insert it knitwise into that second stitch and pull through. It will want to tangle around itself, just don't let it. There we go. Step 7, slip the first stitch with its yarn over, knitwise from the left needle onto the tapestry needle. Step 8, insert the tip of the tapestry needle purlwise into the front of what is now the second stitch with its yarn over, like that, and pull through. Step 9, slip is what is now the first stitch, it has no yarn over, on the left needle purlwise onto the tapestry needle, coming in like so. And then step 10 is perform that little wiggle again, so coming in between the stitch with the yarn over and the stitch without, turning the point of the tapestry needle around so I can go into that stitch knitwise and pull through. That's the repeat, by the way. The last 4 steps were the repeat. All of those steps to begin with were just dealing with the fact that the first stitches didn't have any yarn overs, and now we're into the repeat. So slip this stitch knitwise, come into this stitch with its yarn over purlwise, and pull through. Then slip this stitch purlwise, Come in between these two, turn round and go in knitwise into that stitch there. It very much wants to just wrap itself around the bottom of my knitting. I'm not going to let it. Can you see I'm leaving these really nice and loose? I want this tension to be the same as the tension in the row below if possible. So it really does feel like it's an actual row of knitting. Once again then, slip knitwise, enter purlwise, missing out that one, and pull through. Slip purlwise, come between and enter knitwise and pull through. Slip knitwise, miss out that one, enter purlwise and pull through. Oops, I just wrapped around the top of the needle. I'm not going to let it do that. I left that in without editing out to show you that's what will happen to you, and that's all you need to do is just slip it off the needle again, and then complete this 4-step repeat by slipping purlwise, missing out that stitch, entering the next one knitwise from the back of the work. And as you can see, this is grafting everything together very nicely. It looks like the stitches just roll over from one side to the other. It's really, really stretchy. It's really, really bouncy. It has no cast off edge. In fact, it's just mind-blowingly beautiful, to be honest. So keep working steps 7 to 10 until you've worked all the way across the row and are left with 2 pairs of stitches on the knitting needle. I'll do this one more time, then you can join me at the end when I'm ready to show you how to finish the row. Slip knitwise, miss that stitch, enter purlwise from the front. Slip purlwise, miss that stitch, enter knitwise from the back. I'm going to keep doing that now and I'll see you when I'm at the other end. Here we are, and I have worked across the row to the point where I've got my last 2 pairs of stitches here. The first knit stitch with a yarn over, the purl stitch without, and the last 2 stitches of the slip stitch edge pair also without. I've just finished one of the sets of steps 7 to 10, so the last thing I did was I just brought my tapestry needle through and in that way. I'm not going to do that again because that would be in the wrong part of the sequence. Step 11 here is slip the first stitch with its yarn over knitwise from the left needle onto the tapestry needle. It's very familiar now. Step 12, insert the tip of the tapestry needle purlwise into the front of what is now the second stitch. There we go, entering that one. It's the same as what we've been doing before, but this one doesn't have a yarn over this time because it's our edge pair. Step 13, slip what is now the first stitch, has no yarn over, purlwise onto the tapestry needle. And step 14, bring the needle in between those 2, turn it round so I can enter that stitch knitwise and pull through. All stuff you've been doing so far effortlessly and seamlessly. And then to finish, work steps 3 and 5 once more each without working step 4 and then pull through. Step 3 then, going back to the beginning, is slip 1 stitch without a yarn over knitwise from the left needle onto the tapestry needle, like that. Step 5, without doing step 4, is slip what is now the first stitch, it's also the last stitch, without a yarn over on the left needle, purlwise onto the tapestry needle, and then pull through. There we go. All of our stitches are now caught. Everything has been nicely grafted together, incorporating the stitches at both ends. You can now break the yarns, leaving whatever tail you need here for weaving in. Weave in those ends as neatly as possible. And there you have it, the 1 needle Kitchener graft in double knitted brioche. Zip!